oh my God, I can't believe this happened, is that shattering of your heart per se. And people don't understand that, like, when you lose people, you gain an angel, but you gain more heart. And it didn't stop your heart from breaking. So I always tell people, I look at a heart almost as a stained glass window. And if you ever looked at like a true stained glass window, or a true artisan created stained glass window, one thing that they do is they shatter glass. It's broken shards of glass that's melted and molded into a beautiful masterpiece. And that's what your heart technically is. And I feel like that sometimes when a person passes away, it's just another piece to that. Is they just leave you another piece to that masterpiece, which is you put them in your heart. If that kind of makes sense. I don't think people leave you. You can embody a person, but it takes a while to get to that stage. Not recently, like maybe 2 years ago, my grandmother passed away. I was at work. If you know me, I'm not an emotional person. And people mistake me saying that I'm not emotional, that I don't have feelings. I'm not an emotional person, which means I don't act on emotions. I always try to find the logic in a situation. However, when I was told that my grandmother had passed away and it was so unexpected, my body went through shock. When my mom passed away, I went through shock. I experienced things differently because it takes my mind a while to kind of let it go or understand, because I'm looking for the logic in it. And it sounds bad. My grandfather passed away. I went through shock, but it wasn't as bad because I knew he was already dying. So it was like, oh, the logic in it. He was already dying, so he's dead. It sounds harsh, but that was my logic. I could rationalize that. But a person that I had seen that morning who told me I love you, and by 7 p.m. that afternoon, they were dead. I couldn't rationalize that. A grandmother that I spoke to that Friday, before the following week, she was dead to something that I couldn't fathom. So my body went through shock. It went through a period of pretense. Like I pretended like nothing happened. Even though I went through every day, I was cool, calm, and collected. I saw people crying. I could feel hurt and pain from my family and my siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, my father. Mentally, I did not accept the fact that the body was absent. I just was like going through the motions. So the first step is denial. The second step is anger. And mainly because of age and maturity, my grandmother passed away, I was not angry. I was a little upset at myself because I felt like I should, as an adult grandchild, I should have did more as far as being there for her, spending time with her. But there was no anger towards her for passing away. When my mother passed away, I was pissed. People are like, how can you be mad at somebody for dying? I was angry at my mother for leaving us here and passing away. And people was like, that's kind of sick. I was angry at God for taking her. It took me a while, a long time, to rebuild a true relationship with the higher power, because I was pissed. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why would you leave us? Why would you take her? I was angry. I was angry for a long time. My mom died when I was 13. I think I was 18, 19 years old when I released that anger. I was angry. So, like I said, there's no time frame on the grieving process, because again, I was 13, 18. That was 5 years of just anger. I couldn't get to any other stage because my mind had now accepted the fact that she was not coming back. And now I needed an answer as to why. The third step is bargaining. And I've seen this, like, you know, I have friends who dealt with death, and siblings and cousins and aunts who had to, you know, lose children. So I've seen the bargaining, like, why didn't you take me? Why was it, you know, that person? I've never experienced that. And I attribute that to my father, because my father always explained that, you know, death is a natural progression of life. So I never bargained like that. I wanted to know why they left or why they had to die, but not more so why them and not me. The only time that I ever felt conflicted was when my little cousin passed away. He was in 2004. I said little, like he was like a baby, but little as in younger than me by a year. He passed away and he drowned in the Virginia Beach in 2004. Prior to that year, I had a really bad asthma attack in which I should have probably died. And probably, you know, people say that's kind of morbid, but it is. I mean, I was near death. If the paramedics hadn't gotten there, they did. And MCV didn't have a miraculous pediatric trauma team. I could possibly not be here today. But when he passed away, I didn't bargain. I didn't say why me. You know, I did say why him and not me. Like, what was the difference? Because I wanted to try to make that logical connection. But again, my father sat me down and was like, you know, everything has a time, everything has a place. And I learned to accept that portion of it. But I've never bargained like with my mother, my grandmother, you know, other people passing away. But when my cousin passed away, it would kind of had me in a loop of, you know, we were both the same age. You know, why was I spared? He not, and he was trying to save his mother. You know what I'm saying? So that had me messed up for a while. And sometimes I still kind of get in a dark place about it. But I'm getting better. We did denial, anger, bargaining, and then depression. The thing that kills me, especially in the African American community, is that it's such a stigma on mental health or dealing with things that you can't get help. You can't speak to a therapist. We've been through too much. Yeah. As African Americans, we have been through too much. So that's maybe why we need to talk to somebody. We bear the brunt of a lot of things on our shoulders. And through history, we've learned to just chuck it up and keep moving. Keep praying. If you have to do this and you're not praying hard enough, you don't believe in God, or your faith is not strong. You hear all of that, you know, and you kind of put yourself in the corner of, if I get help, does that mean I'm weak? It doesn't. When you're dealing with grief, you're going to get depressed. You're going to have dark days, you know. 20 years later, I have dark days. I've been depressed. I've been sick inside from losing people that I love. And it took me getting help to understand that I'm not weak because I'm dealing with this issue. I was weak because I was dealing with this issue, dealing with this loss and this pain, and I kept burying it. And when you bury issues, it's just like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. It might, slow up the bleeding. However, eventually you will bleed out. You will end up causing yourself more pain. And that's what depression is if it doesn't get checked out. But also a way to combat depression is surrounding yourself with positivity. I always say I live a better life because the people who passed away gave me their strength. I got the best heavenly hype squad. People are like, yo, you crazy. But I believe that, and I embody that every day. Like when I do something great or when I do something not so great, I always have eyes on me. So when I feel like I always have eyes on me, I'm more apt to go that extra mile. When I'm tired and I'm like, I think I'm going to do it. I remember my mother. I remember my grandmother, my great grandma. I remember the stories, and I remember the things they had to go through. And it keeps me moving. It keeps me pushing, So that's how you deal with depression. You do something different. Do something that they wanted to do, Like, I did this. My cousin would have loved to do this. Let me try it. Because now it's almost like you're sharing the experience, because that person lives within inside of you, inside yourself, inside your heart. So things of that help combat depression. And then talking to somebody, journaling, just get it out. Don't hold it in. It's not healthy. And lastly is acceptance. I feel like acceptance. Okay. So when people think about acceptance, they think, okay, I got it. They're dead. Let's go move on. When I think of acceptance is when your mind finally accepts the absence of the body. And people say, well, that's kind of backwards. Because when you go through denial, you're in shock. And from your shock comes your anger. From your anger, you may bargain. From your bargaining comes your depression, but you're not yet to accept the fact that they are no longer present. So that's what acceptance means to me, that you accepting the fact that they are no longer physically here. Doesn't mean that you accept that they're dead and you're going to move on and forget that they ever existed, because that's not a possibility. Especially if you truly love that person. But now you have come to grips with the fact that the physical body is no longer present. They're in a better place. They're not hurting. And you can move forward without feeling guilt, without feeling anger, without asking why or what if or why not. You can proceed with living a fuller life, because now you have them with you and you can see them in relatives, new babies, things of that nature. Letting go, grieving, mourning, death in general, no one can tell you how to do it. I'm not an emotional person. I don't cry because other people are crying. And, my mom passed. He was like, oh, she's just, something. She's just going to break down, because I didn't cry that much. I wasn't boo-hooing. And because, again, I was in shock. It wouldn't allow me to process the absence. So, because I didn't accept it, I couldn't pretend that it wasn't going on, or I couldn't let the tears fall, because that's not who I am. And people will be like, oh, you heartless, or you cold, you lack emotion. But the truth is, my father always taught me, you don't cry because you see other people crying. Now, when we had to bury my mother and to watch her physical presence be buried, I cried. I shed tears. But it wasn't loud. I wasn't whooping and hollering and that's not who I am. That's not my demeanor. Was I hurt? I'm still hurt. I still feel that pain. I still relive that day every April 27th. Because that's what you do. You relive that day of what could I did differently to this not happening. But now, Destiny at 33-year-old understands there's nothing that she could have done. No matter what I would have done differently that day, she still would have passed away. Destiny at 13, 14, 15, 25, thought, maybe if I would have did this, maybe I would have went to the park, maybe if I wasn't trying to. It's all about growth. And when you grow, you mature. And when you mature, you learn that the acceptance of the physical being